was a touch careless around his ball, but I don't think he did anything intentionally. And we've seen. I mean, I was out practicing. I was playing with him yesterday. I don't really have a ton to say on it. Actually, I do have a ton to say.
What if I told you that at this year's Open Championship, the best golfer on the planet hit 2 horrible shots on the same hole, lost his ball so badly that a 100-person search party could not find it, and still made birdie? No penalty. No punishment. Nothing, and here is the shocking part. He actually wanted the ball to stay lost. What Scottie Scheffler admitted after his round left even veteran golf reporters dumbfounded. This is the full story of the wildest Sunday in recent major championship memory, and by the end of it, you will understand why golf fans everywhere are demanding a rule change. Let us set the scene. It is Sunday, July 19th, 2026. The final round of the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale in Southport, England, Scottie Scheffler arrives as the world number 1 and the defending champion, having lifted the claret jug at Royal Portrush in 2025. He is chasing history, trying to become the first man to win back-to-back Opens since Padraig Harrington nearly 2 decades earlier. But this has not been his week. Through 3 rounds, Scheffler has battled missed putts and cruel bounces. He would later describe how his ball on the 13th hole found trouble at the worst possible time, and how his tee shot on the 14th looked perfect in the air, only to end up in a pot bunker. In his own words after the tournament, little stuff like that over the course of the week tends to add up. Still, on Sunday, the champion showed up. Scheffler clawed his way back into contention with a final round charge, and as he stepped onto the tee of the par 5 17th hole, he was trailing by just a few shots. He needed something special over the closing stretch. Instead, he produced one of the most emotional moments of his entire season. The tee shot sailed badly offline, and the calmest, most composed player in professional golf absolutely erupted. Why? Scheffler screamed the word in disbelief as his ball disappeared into the thick rough. The world number 1 kept questioning the shot out loud as it vanished, and within minutes, video of the outburst was spreading across social media. Fans were stunned. This is a player famous for his ice-cold demeanor, and here he was, yelling at the sky on the 17th hole of a major championship with the claret jug on the line. But believe it or not, the tee shot was not the problem. What came next is where this story goes off the rails. After advancing his ball down the hole, Scheffler pulled out a fairway wood for a heroic second shot. The ball hooked violently left, sailing nearly 100 yards offline toward the hospitality structures bordering the hole. It flew behind a grandstand and vanished. Officials searched. Spotters searched. According to one frustrated fan online, it felt like a 100-person search party. The ball was never found. Now pause and think about what that means for you and me. In a regular Saturday game, that is a lost ball. Stroke and distance. You march back, drop another ball, and take your medicine. But this is professional tournament golf, and professional tournament golf has a rule that most fans had never even heard of before this moment. It is called a temporary immovable obstruction, or TIO. Grandstands, television towers, and hospitality tents all fall under this category. These structures are put up temporarily for the tournament, so under the rules they are not considered part of the challenge of playing the golf course. Under Model Local Rule F23, a player is entitled to relief when one of these structures interferes with his lie, his stance, or his line of play. And here is the kicker, the part that blew everyone's mind. The rule includes something called virtual certainty. If a ball is known or virtually certain to have come to rest inside the boundary of a temporary immovable obstruction, the player gets a free drop at the point of entry, even if the ball is never found. Mark Litton, the club professional at Royal Birkdale, explained it live on Sky Sports coverage. We are almost certain that his ball is on the temporary immovable object. We don't actually have to find it. He continued, if we can't find the ball, we use the point of entry as his new entry point. Now he will get line of sight. We find the edge of the TO with the equidistance length. And then the mechanics, he measures 2 club lengths, and he has to drop the ball within the second club length, and it has to remain there. Scheffler himself broke down the ruling in his post-round interview. The rules official said it landed just barely left of the grandstand thing, he said. So when we get up there, it's past the fence that marks the TO, so he said anything that's in there is part of the TO. So the officials granted him a free drop with a clear path to the green. Scheffler dropped, hit a wedge to 10 feet, and rolled in the birdie putt. Just like that, 2 of the worst shots of his week turned into a 4, and the defending champion moved to 8 under par, just 1 shot back of the lead at a major championship. But now we get to the twist that most of the coverage buried. The part that once you hear it, changes how you see the entire situation. Scottie Scheffler did not just benefit from his ball being lost. He actively stopped people from finding it. That is not speculation. That is his own admission in his own words after the round. Spotters up near the hospitality area were pointing to the exact spot where the ball came down, and Scheffler sprinted up there to shut the search down. I stopped them, he admitted. They had guys pointing from up there like it landed right here. And I just kind of hauled up there and I was like, guys, get out of there, stop, do not find the ball. Why on earth would a player beg people not to find his golf ball? Because Scheffler had already done the math. He asked the rules official directly whether finding the ball would help him, since it had landed roughly 50 yards closer to the hole. The official told him yes, he could use that spot, but he might have to take relief on the other side of the temporary immovable obstruction, which would leave him a terrible angle coming across toward the green. The lost ball dropped at the point of entry was actually the better outcome. And here is the detail that proves this was no accident of luck. Scheffler revealed he had used this exact rule earlier in the season. Actually, I did that once this year during the Byron as well, he said, referring to the Byron Nelson tournament. Not something I'm proud of, but I was familiar with. Let that sink in. He knew the rule. He knew the lost ball helped him, and he made sure it stayed lost. To be completely clear, Scheffler broke no rules whatsoever. Everything he did was legal, and the officials from the R&A, the organization that runs the Open Championship, confirmed the ruling was correct. But the optics? The optics set the golf world on fire. Fellow tour professional Michael Kim posted, "Wow, even I'm dumbfounded by that TO relief from Scottie." The on-course commentator for Sky Sports, Inchi Mehmet, said she had never seen a ball finish that far offline and still receive relief because of the hospitality structures. And the fans? They were furious. One wrote that a golf ball was not found and a player got a free drop, calling it an absolutely terrible look for the game of golf. Another said the temporary immovable obstruction rule is completely broken in men's professional golf. Another argued the hole should have been a double bogey at best, and instead it ended up a birdie. One fan even proposed a fix that gained real traction, establish internal out-of-bounds behind hospitality areas, because the ordinary Royal Birkdale member who hits it where Scheffler did is making a 7, not a 4. On the other side, plenty of people pointed out the obvious. The officials were simply applying the rules of golf as written regardless of the situation or the player involved. The rule protects the entire field equally. Blame the rulebook, not the player. And here is the wildest part of this entire week. This was only the second biggest rules controversy at Royal Birkdale. Rewind to Friday. Bryson DeChambeau, the 2-time United States Open champion, was paired with none other than Scottie Scheffler for the second round. DeChambeau shot a brilliant 66 and believed he was sitting just 1 shot off the halfway lead held by Lucas Herbert. Then the hammer dropped. After the round, officials from the R&A handed him a 2-shot penalty. Television footage showed that on the 5th hole, DeChambeau had trampled down knee-high rough behind his ball, inadvertently improving the line of his backswing. The R&A emphasized his actions were accidental, but the rule still applied. His bogey became a triple bogey, and 1 shot back became 3 shots back. DeChambeau was livid. He got into a prolonged, heated exchange with rules officials that ran late into Friday evening, a confrontation so drawn out that it delayed the release of Saturday's tee times. There was genuine speculation he might withdraw from the championship in protest before he announced the decision would fire him up for the weekend. And through all of it, he refused to speak to the media, extending a silence that stretched across every single round of the tournament. Then Rory McIlroy poured gasoline on the fire. The reigning Masters champion said there was no doubt DeChambeau improved the line of his backswing, and he did not stop there. I won't pretend to be up here and defend Bryson. I'm not particularly fond of him, McIlroy said. I think a lot of it's performative. I think a lot of it's for attention. And then the line that made headlines everywhere, to hold the tournament hostage like that and to have all of us, players, volunteers, everyone waiting on him to depart, I didn't feel like it was a great look. When DeChambeau stepped out for Saturday's third round, the Birkdale crowd gave him a warm reception, though a few isolated shouts of cheat could be heard from the gallery. Through all of this, one voice stayed quiet. Scottie Scheffler had been standing right there when the incident happened, and on Saturday he gave reporters one of the most tantalizing non-answers you will ever hear. I don't really have a ton to say on it, he began before catching himself. Actually, I do have a ton to say. I haven't decided exactly what I want to say publicly yet. On Sunday, after his final round, he finally delivered his verdict. And he threaded the needle with remarkable care. First, the character defense, and he could not have been clearer. All I'll say is Bryson, I've known him for a long time, and he's a lot of things, but he's definitely not a cheater, Scheffler said. I've never seen him cheat once, whether we were having a putting contest on the putting green or chipping contest, or any time we played amateur golf, I never saw anything suspicious. Then, the nuance. When you're watching him there from that camera angle, maybe he was a touch careless around his ball, but I don't think he did anything intentionally. Scheffler also raised the fairness question that players like Harris English and Russell Henley had already touched on. Every single shot DeChambeau hits is broadcast on television, while players outside the spotlight face no such scrutiny. When you have camera angles that are far away, things can look different than they do when you're right there, Scheffler explained, even referencing the famous Jon Rahm incident at the Memorial Tournament a few years earlier when Rahm's ball moved in the rough in a way the naked eye could barely detect. And then came the pivot that raised eyebrows across the sport. I think we need to kind of get back to the traditions of the game, and maybe we do need to police things a little bit more stricter in the game, Scheffler said. Catch the irony there. The man calling for stricter policing of the rules had, just hours earlier, benefited from the most contested lenient ruling of the entire championship. He asked for tougher enforcement on the same afternoon a lost ball turned into his birdie. So how did it all end? The 17th hole gave Scheffler life, but the 18th took it away. He made bogey on the final hole, dropping to 7 under par and a tie for 4th place, 3 shots behind the champion. Bryson DeChambeau, meanwhile, saw his Sunday hopes destroyed by a triple bogey 7 on the 11th hole, and he finished tied for 14th at 4 under par. And the man who actually lifted the claret jug? Ryan Fox of New Zealand, capturing his maiden major championship with an outstanding back 9, only to become nearly a footnote beneath all the controversy surrounding him. Scheffler, to his credit, walked away with grace and honesty. Today was a great effort, he said. I got a good break there on 17, but off the tee, it probably should have been in the fairway. That stuff hurts. And finally, I guess it just wasn't my week. But the questions his week raised are not going away. Should the temporary immovable obstruction rule be revisited for major championships? Should areas behind hospitality tents simply be marked as out of bounds? Is television-based rules enforcement fair when only the biggest stars have every shot recorded? And where exactly is the line between knowing the rules and exploiting them? Scottie Scheffler broke no rules. Bryson DeChambeau broke one by accident. One walked away with a birdie, the other with a 2-shot penalty, and golf fans are still arguing about which outcome was more absurd. Was the Scheffler drop fair? Was the DeChambeau penalty deserved? Drop your take in the comments below.